I'll never forget the night of my wife's company dinner. The room was full of polished suits, clinking glasses, and carefully crafted smiles. I was there to support my wife, Emma, who had just been promoted to a senior position. She looked radiant, proud, and excited to introduce me to her colleagues. As we mingled, one of her coworkers, a tall man with a smug grin, leaned in with his glass of wine and sneered, "So this is Emma's husband? Must be tough living in her shadow, huh?" A few people laughed uncomfortably, but he didn't stop there. He added, "I mean, look at her, she's the star. And you?" Well, he let the silence finish his insult, raising his eyebrows at me. I forced a smile and responded lightly, not giving him the satisfaction of a reaction. But inside, something twisted. His words hit harder than I wanted to admit. Was I just the plus one in my wife's world? I brushed it off at the moment, trying to keep the evening from turning ugly. But that single comment planted a seed of doubt. And over the next days, I started noticing little things about Emma, things I had ignored before. Her late nights. Her sudden bursts of secrecy with her phone. The way she seemed more invested in work dinners than in our own dinners at home. That coworker's mockery didn't just humiliate me, it opened my eyes. And soon, I would uncover a betrayal that would shake everything I thought I knew about my marriage. The next morning, I couldn't shake the sting of that coworker's words. Emma brushed it off when I mentioned it, saying, "Don't take it personally. He's always like that." But her dismissiveness only made me uneasy. If someone insulted her, I would have stood up for her in an instant. Why was she so quick to excuse him? Over the following week, I noticed Emma's phone glued to her hand. She'd tilt the screen away whenever I walked by, her face lighting up with little smiles before quickly putting it down. One night, she came home late again from work, her blouse slightly wrinkled, her perfume stronger than usual. "Big project," she said, avoiding my eyes. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe the woman I married was the same woman I had built a life with. But doubt doesn't go away once it takes root, it grows. So I decided to test her. The next evening, as she headed into the shower, she left her phone on the dresser. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I told myself I wasn't the type to snoop, but something inside me needed answers. And that's when I saw it, a string of messages from a number not saved under any name. The words made my chest tighten. "Last night was amazing. When can we do it again?" My heart stopped. The coworker who mocked me at dinner, his name was right there in the thread. I dropped the phone like it burned me. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out every sound in the house. The smug look on that coworker's face from the dinner flashed in my mind, and suddenly, everything made sense. Emma's secrecy. Her late nights. Her dismissive tone when I brought him up. It wasn't just work. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, my thoughts spinning out of control. I wanted to confront her right then and there, to demand an explanation, but a small, stubborn voice told me to wait. If I rushed in without proof, she'd twist it, deny it, and I'd be left looking paranoid. So I made a decision. I would gather everything I needed before I said a word. That week, I started paying closer attention. I noticed her meetings always lined up with his schedule. I checked her car mileage, and it didn't match her story of just the office. One night, I even drove past her workplace at the time she said she'd still be inside, only to see her car gone. The betrayal cut deeper with each discovery. The woman I loved, the one I thought I could trust with my life, was living a double life right under my nose. But if she thought I would just sit quietly in the dark, she was wrong. I was going to expose her, and I was going to do it in a way she couldn't escape. The more I uncovered, the more my anger hardened into cold resolve. I wasn't just a loser husband like her coworker implied, I was going to show them both just how wrong they were. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her messages, times and dates of her late nights, even photos of her car parked outside his apartment complex. Every piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of her lies. But I didn't want to confront her at home. No, she had humiliated me in front of her colleagues by letting that man mock me without a word of defense. I wanted her betrayal to come to light the same way, publicly. So when the next company dinner invitation arrived, I knew exactly what I had to do. I played the supportive husband, smiling as Emma told me how important the night was for networking. She didn't suspect a thing. That evening, as we arrived, she held my arm, radiant in her dress, acting like everything was perfect. But beneath my calm expression, I carried the weight of the truth, and the evidence to back it up. As her coworkers laughed and chatted around the table, I waited for the right moment. My eyes flicked across the room until they landed on him, her coworker, the one who mocked me. He grinned when he saw me, almost daring me to react. Little did he know, I was ready. And before the night was over, both of them would regret ever underestimating me. The dinner started off the same way as before, champagne glasses clinking, polite laughter echoing through the room. Emma was glowing, charming everyone at the table, while I sat quietly, letting the tension build inside me. Then, as if on cue, the same coworker leaned over with that same smug grin. "Glad you could make it again," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I was worried you might feel out of place here." This time, instead of forcing a smile, I looked him dead in the eye and said calmly, "Funny you say that. Because I've been learning a lot about my place lately." The table went silent. Emma shifted nervously, trying to laugh it off. "Honey, don't start." But I didn't stop. I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the folder of evidence, and laid it on the table in front of him. "Recognize these?" I asked, turning the screen so everyone could see the messages. Gasps rippled across the table. Emma's face went pale, her confident smile collapsing into shock. She reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. I stood, my voice steady but sharp. For months, I thought I was imagining things. But the truth was right here all along, my wife and her coworker mocking me behind my back while sneaking around together. The coworker froze, his smirk gone, his eyes darting around the room. Emma's hand trembled as she whispered, "Please, not here," but it was too late. Everyone had seen. The perfect image she built at work shattered in an instant. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like the one in control. The room felt frozen in time. Forks clinked against plates as people awkwardly set their utensils down, no one daring to speak. All eyes were on us. Emma's boss cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable, but before he could say anything, Emma whispered, "Can we talk about this at home?" Her voice cracked, her carefully polished composure completely gone. I shook my head. "No, Emma. You chose to let him humiliate me in front of everyone last time. You let him mock me, knowing full well what the two of you were doing. Tonight, you don't get to hide behind closed doors." A murmur spread through the table. Some people looked shocked, others glanced at Emma with pity, but no one defended her. Her coworker finally spoke, his voice sharp. "This isn't the place for." I cut him off. "Oh, it's exactly the place. You didn't mind dragging me down in public. So now you can sit here and face the truth in public." Emma buried her face in her hands, tears streaming down. The coworker sank back in his chair, silent, no clever lines left. I turned to Emma one last time. "You wanted to build your career on lies? Fine. But don't expect me to be part of your story anymore." With that, I set my napkin on the table and walked out, leaving the whole room in stunned silence. And though my chest ached with betrayal, for the first time in months, I felt free. When I walked out of that dinner, the cool night air hit me like a wave of clarity. My phone buzzed non-stop, Emma calling, texting, begging me to come back. I ignored every notification. By the time I got home, she was already there, mascara streaked down her face, pacing the living room. The moment I stepped through the door, she rushed toward me. "Please, listen," she pleaded, her voice shaking. It wasn't what it looked like. I raised my hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Don't insult me with excuses. I saw the messages. I saw where you've been going. You don't get to rewrite this." Her shoulders slumped, and for a long moment, she was silent. Finally, she whispered, "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But it didn't mean anything, not compared to us." Hearing that nearly broke me, because once, I would have believed her. But not anymore. "If it didn't mean anything, you wouldn't have risked everything for it," I said coldly. She reached out, trying to grab my hand, but I pulled away. The woman who once was my entire world now felt like a stranger standing in front of me. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I closed the door to the guest room and lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. The laughter at the dinner, the betrayal in her messages, the look on her face when she realized it was over. And deep down, I knew one thing for certain: my marriage would never be the same again. The days after the dinner were heavy with silence. Emma tried to act normal, cooking breakfast, asking about my day, even leaving little notes on the counter like she used to when we first got married. But it all felt hollow. Every time I looked at her, I saw the lies. The secret smile she once saved for me now belonged to someone else. One evening, she finally broke down. "I'll quit my job," she said through tears. "I'll cut him off. I'll do whatever it takes. Please, just, don't give up on us." For a moment, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that the woman I fell in love with was still there, that we could erase what happened. But the truth hung between us like a wall neither of us could climb. "Emma," I said quietly, "you didn't just betray me. You betrayed the life we built, the trust we shared. That's not something you can patch with promises." Her face crumbled, and she sank onto the couch, sobbing. I stood there, my heart aching, but my mind resolute. That night, I gathered some clothes and packed a bag. As I zipped it shut, she ran into the room, clutching at my arm. "Don't leave," she begged. "Please, not like this." I pulled free, my voice steady even though my chest felt like it was breaking. "I already left the moment you chose him over us." With that, I walked out the door, not knowing where I was going, but knowing I couldn't stay. I checked into a small hotel that night, the kind of place where no one asks questions. For the first time in years, I slept alone, not just in a different bed, but in a different life. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages from Emma. Long paragraphs, apologies, even old photos of us together with captions like, "Remember how happy we were." She was trying to pull me back with memories, but all I could feel was the weight of betrayal. At work, my coworkers noticed something was different. One of them asked if I was okay, and for once, I didn't hide it. I simply said, "My marriage isn't what I thought it was." That honesty felt strange, but freeing. Meanwhile, Emma didn't stop trying. She showed up at the hotel once, tears in her eyes, saying she'd started therapy, that she was willing to fight for us. She begged me to come home, even if just to talk. I listened, but I didn't give her an answer. Instead, I told her the truth: I need to figure out who I am without you. Because right now, I don't recognize the man who let this happen. Her silence after that cut deeper than her words. She realized she couldn't fix this with quick gestures. And as I walked back into the quiet of my hotel room, I felt something new: pain, yes, but also the faintest trace of relief. For the first time, I was starting to imagine a future without her. News of what happened at the dinner didn't stay at the table, it spread through Emma's company like wildfire. By the end of the week, everyone knew. The woman who had built her reputation on being the polished, untouchable professional now carried whispers wherever she went. A mutual friend who still worked there told me she looked like a ghost in the office. The coworker she betrayed me with avoided her entirely, clearly more concerned with protecting his own career than with her. Her promotion, her big achievement, suddenly felt meaningless under the weight of the scandal. Meanwhile, I focused on myself. I hit the gym more, reconnected with old friends I hadn't spoken to in years, and even started journaling at night to make sense of everything. Each small step felt like a piece of me coming back. Emma, on the other hand, kept reaching out. Sometimes she'd send heartfelt letters, other times desperate pleas. "We can start over. Please, I'll do anything." But the more she chased me, the more I realized something: I didn't miss her. I missed the person I thought she was, the version of Emma that only existed before the betrayal. One evening, as I closed my journal, I realized I was no longer waiting for her to change. I was building a life without her, and it felt stronger, cleaner, and more honest than the one I left behind. Still, I knew the hardest part was coming: making the decision official. The divorce papers sat on the table in front of me for 3 days. Every time I looked at them, my chest tightened. It wasn't just about ending a marriage, it was about letting go of years of love, memories, and dreams we once built together. Emma must have sensed it, because just as I was ready to sign, she showed up at the hotel again. Her eyes were swollen, her voice raw. "Please," she whispered, setting a photo album on the table. It was filled with pictures from our wedding, our first home, vacations where we laughed until our faces hurt. This is us. Don't throw it away." I flipped through the pages, and for a moment, I almost faltered. The smiles, the joy, they were real once. But then I remembered the messages, the lies, the way she stood by silently while her coworker mocked me. "This isn't us anymore," I said, my voice steady but heavy. "You destroyed it the moment you chose him." She fell to her knees, clutching my hand. "I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, moving away, quitting my job, I'll change everything. Just don't let this be the end." For the first time, I felt pity instead of anger. She wasn't fighting for me anymore, she was fighting for the image of a life she had already shattered. I gently pulled my hand away, pushing the papers toward her. "Emma, it's already the end. The only question now is how we move forward separately." Her tears fell onto the papers, but I didn't waver. I had made my choice. The next morning, I signed the divorce papers. My hand didn't shake, though my heart felt like it was carrying 1,000 pounds. Emma sat across from me, silently crying, her once confident presence replaced with regret and defeat. When it was done, I slid the documents across the table. "This is the cleanest way forward," I said quietly. She nodded, but her eyes searched mine one last time, as if hoping for a flicker of hesitation. There wasn't one. Afterward, I walked out of that office and into the sunlight. For the first time in months, I felt the air fill my lungs without the weight of secrets pressing down on me. The world hadn't changed, but I had. Friends reached out, inviting me places I had been too distracted to go before. I started saying yes. I found myself laughing again, genuinely laughing, in ways I hadn't in years. Emma tried to contact me a few times after the papers were filed, but I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She had made her choice long before, and now, I had finally made mine. Standing in front of the mirror one evening, I realized something. I didn't look like a man broken by betrayal, I looked like a man who had survived it. And in that reflection, I saw the beginning of someone stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. The chapter with Emma was over. But my story was just beginning. Word of the divorce spread quickly, just as word of the dinner had months before. Emma's carefully crafted image at work crumbled. The same colleagues who once admired her now whispered behind her back. Promotions she thought were guaranteed slipped through her fingers. The man she risked everything for. He distanced himself completely, leaving her to carry the shame alone. Meanwhile, I was moving in the opposite direction. The more I let go of Emma, the more I found myself again. I reconnected with hobbies I'd abandoned, woodworking, hiking, even cooking meals from scratch. I spent weekends with friends who reminded me of my worth, people who never saw me as a loser, but as someone loyal, dependable, and kind. One evening, a mutual acquaintance pulled me, documenting everything. Screenshots of her messages, times and dates of her late nights, even photos of her car parked outside his apartment complex. Every piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of her lies. But I didn't want to confront her at home. No, she had humiliated me in front of her colleagues by letting that man mock me without a word of defense. I wanted her betrayal to come to light the same way, publicly. So when the next company dinner invitation arrived, I knew exactly what I had to do. I played the supportive husband, smiling as Emma told me how important the night was for networking. She didn't suspect a thing. That evening, as we arrived, she held my arm, radiant in her dress, acting like everything was perfect. But beneath my calm expression, I carried the weight of the truth, and the evidence to back it up. As her coworkers laughed and chatted around the table, I waited for the right moment. My eyes flicked across the room until they landed on him, her coworker, the one who mocked me. He grinned when he saw me, almost daring me to react. Little did he know, I was ready. And before the night was over, both of them would regret ever underestimating me. The dinner started off the same way as before, champagne glasses clinking, polite laughter echoing through the room. Emma was glowing, charming everyone at the table, while I sat quietly, letting the tension build inside me. Then, as if on cue, the same coworker leaned over with that same smug grin. "Glad you could make it again," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I was worried you might feel out of place here." This time, instead of forcing a smile, I looked him dead in the eye and said calmly, "Funny you say that. Because I've been learning a lot about my place lately." The table went silent. Emma shifted nervously, trying to laugh it off. "Honey, don't start." But I didn't stop. I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the folder of evidence, and laid it on the table in front of him. "Recognize these?" I asked, turning the screen so everyone could see the messages. Gasps rippled across the table. Emma's face went pale, her confident smile collapsing into shock. She reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. I stood, my voice steady but sharp. For months, I thought I was imagining things. But the truth was right here all along, my wife and her coworker mocking me behind my back while sneaking around together. The coworker froze, his smirk gone, his eyes darting around the room. Emma's hand trembled as she whispered, "Please, not here," but it was too late. Everyone had seen. The perfect image she built at work shattered in an instant. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like the one in control. The room felt frozen in time. Forks clinked against plates as people awkwardly set their utensils down, no one daring to speak.